Hopefully everybody got fully nourished.
Praise Allah.
And that we've been reinvigorated to commence with the second half of our summit. So first what we're going to do is we're going to have our brother Barwell Bey is going to come up and present a poem. And directly after, Brother Sharif and our Bey will come and reintroduce to us our keynote speaker for today. All right. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam. Islam. Again, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I rise giving all praise to Allah, honors to His holy divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'm going to be short, and this poem is entitled Unity. I wrote it last night, so if I stumble a little bit, forgive me, please. My brother said, the gifts of deep understanding are treasures. And while we take our tools using that square to measure our lines, let's go back in time to a land of fleshless things, a time when unity wasn't just a dream, that time in between. And yes, it's ironic, and I don't mean to be so subatomic, but sometimes big things come in small packages. Yes, what I'm actually talking about is a time when time was absent. Time never was when man was not. And on the plane of soul, fleshy eyes can't see the firmness, the fineness of the knot that binds us all. We are one. Yeah, I said it, the numero uno. And you looking with the wrong eye, that's why you don't know. Allah is one, yet He is more than one. Creative fate likes to have fun. So creeping things, beasts, protoplasts, and the spirits of the sun are like poetic reruns. We're watching the same program on a different channel. So don't be enamored by the station, just let your soul glow. In this emanation, yes, sir, Jerry Curl Moores, we are connected like fractals and our ancestors' essence. So let's be what we are. The strength of Allah made manifest. The best unity by far. Peace. Yes. Oh, Brother Sharif Bey. Real funny, real funny. Islam. 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 I want to first rise and give praise to Allah. I want to give honors to His prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I want to give honors to the forerunner, the brother Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I want to give honors to the Moorish Science Temple of America. I want to give honors to all past and present leadership of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I want to give honors to my comrades in Ali's men. And I want to give honors to everyone here today. Islam. Islam. This is amazing. You know, those of us that helped put this thing together, you know, we did it in a very, 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 very short time. And we're all in awe at the vibration and the spirit present in the room today. That's right. You know, we really, really are. So I am not going to be long at all. One of the big treats about our upcoming speaker, one of the big somewhat surprise treats, you know, we already know, her scholarship in the ethnohistory of our people and how powerful it is because she independently confirms what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was teaching in 1913. Wow. When we first talked with the sister a while back, we were talking about these things. We quoted the last sentence in Act 6, right? The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. You know, we talked about the industrious acts of the Moors, right? On page 3 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America. And her words were, wow, that's very simple and poetic language, but it's the truth. And that's not really known. I'd like to meet this man. We were like, that's impossible. He passed forms in 1929. She said, well, that's impossible. We were like, what do you mean? She said, this knowledge was secret and held back from the outside world. How in the world did he know that? And I'm taking the liberty of quoting the sister. She said, either he was somehow related to those original Arabian tribes, or he got this knowledge from some esoteric means. That's exactly what she said. She can tell you herself that her work and her research of 30 plus years is now being greedily snatched up by advanced academia all over the world. Because it's now, among other things, her research is solving problems that they couldn't solve about their own histories. But here's the kicker. who is this stuff about? Her presentation is on the ethnohistory of who? Oh, The prophet Noble Drew Ali said that the keys of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. Our sister, Sister Dana Reynolds Marnichi, is an expert, over 30 plus years of research with various tribes and ethnicities in West Africa. So she has the first-hand ground level experience on these matters. She's not taking somebody else's word. How many of you are familiar with Ivan Van Sertima? How many are familiar with his work? How many of you are familiar with the fact that Ivan Van Sertima quoted our sister Dana Marnichi? She was one of his references. I'm not going to say anything else. Without further ado, please welcome to the podium Sister Dana Marnichi.
And to get my number, because he wanted to find out where I was getting my information from. He also wrote a book called The Curse of Ham, which is about, actually, it has a lot of Afrocentric stuff in there, so I would recommend anybody who wants to also get another academic view to get his book, The Curse of Ham, by David Goldenberg. So he's also endorsing a book which is coming out called Fear of Blackness, which is was published by the Academic Review, West Africa Review. So they're now publishing that as a book, not the thing that's on the blog, on my blog stuff, but another paper that talks about the relationship between the Berbers and West African people and their background in not only Islam but Judaism. So, as far as I'm concerned, as I was saying before, I'm not racially. I try to link with all my different lineages, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as the people who created early civilization, almost all early civilization was created by what you guys call the Asiatics, and I call it Afro-Asiatics, and I think that's why I needed that.
Good.
Okay, so let me get quickly started because I think we only have an hour left of us. Right?
You got time. You got time. All right.
Okay. So what you see here is, I don't know if you can read it, but Anatolia. This is a rock art back, I guess, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 years BC.
Wow.
Okay. And of course, these kinds of paintings are found all over Europe and Asia of black people. Or Asiatic people.
Be comfortable with Sister Sylvia. Well, we know what you mean.
We know what you mean, sis.
So this is an Omatic or Afro-Asiatic speaker, meaning they speak the original languages of the Afro-Asiatic language group, which is so-called Cushitic Semitic languages. The Semitic language is no different than the Hamitic language group, or what used to be called the Hamitic language group. So they made the whole group they now entitled Afro-Asiatics. Okay, so he's doing that, and you can see that's something that comes from way, way back. And you also see the same thing among the dark-skinned Arabians, but they're jumping over camels. So, and they claim to be from a group called the Az. Let me make sure that. Okay, so this culture actually was the culture that Diop talked about. Okay. Well, so today you find many of the Africans in general are very matrifocal in terms of the woman passes down property and is not necessarily the head of the society, but even though at times they were, especially in Arabia, you have a lot of chieftainesses, warrior chieftainesses. But among the Tuareg too, they're among the most warlike people in Africa. But they are basically the men have to talk softly among when they're in front of women in a lot of places. Sorry guys, I see some looks in the but so among the ancient Semites, they had a mother goddess culture. That's also where you get the European Jewish tradition of having the mother, being important. The woman in their society is very important in the European Jewish society. Okay, so that's what also separates us from or the ancient Afro-Asiatics from other people at that time. So who were the Moors? They were the most talked about people in history. The Vedas were about them. The Hebrew Bible, the Quran, especially Genesis, all totally about the Moors. The Moors were the people called Hebrews. The Moors were the people called the children or folk of Noah. Okay, so no Japhet, Ham, Shem, all people that were, these were all people that came from an area that was situated in southwest Arabia. Okay, southward of Mecca and towards the Horn of Africa in Arabia. Okay, these people had gone into that area back in between 3 and 5,000 BC. Okay, so there was different groups of Africans that went there. Actually, there was one group, a very archaic African, big African type that was there in what's called the Ubaid region in Mesopotamia, and they also moved back down into that area. Okay, but anyway, let's see. So the Moors were known first in European documents as the black men, not as Muslims, not as pagans, not as white people especially, but as black people, the Negri, or Niger. So Silius Italicus was one who used it, said, used the phrase Negri Mori, the black Moors. Juvenal spoke of a Getulian, which was another people up in North Africa at that time, as a Moor so black you'd rather not see him at midnight. Martialis talks about a woolly hair like a Moor. And some of this stuff you'll see in J.A. Rogers' books, yes, if you know him, and especially in Nature Knows No Color Line. Nature Knows No Color Line. Jerome, these are all people around the time of Christ, so just the start of A.D. Jerome considered Nubians and Moors to belong to the Ethiopians. Byzantines, Byzantine meaning Greco-Romans, that were also settled in North Africa. Like Claudian talks about the Moors, especially the Tuareg at that time, the Nasamones, who are still called Inu Samoni, talks about them making hideous Ethiopian hybrids across North Africa because they were taking Roman women from North Africa. Corpus was a 6th century writer, and he said, he talks about the Moors as being black as crows and that kind of thing, and black as Hades, that kind of thing. So he was talking about the Moors that lived in southern Tunisia and northern Algeria. Procopius also said the same thing. The Vandals were not black like the Moors. And then St. Isidore says, of Seville, which is in Spain, says in the 7th century, I think, that first of all, the Garamantes were one of the Ethiopian races, and that's another people that are not, still some people get confused about what they were and who they were. But he said that the Moors were as black as night, while the Goths or Gauls were white. I forget which one. After the Muslim Moors went into Spain, you have the Latin or Mozarabic Chronicle of the 8th century, which talks about how the Moors are so black. They say the color of the Moors was such that the horses in the mountains of Tangiers turned and fled. So you're talking about the same people that St. Isidore was talking about across from Morocco. At that time, the Moors across Morocco, or the people across Morocco, were black. And I'm not talking about black like in here. I'm talking about black, period. And some people don't, they don't think that there's black people. There are black people even in that area. Well, not so much in that area anymore, but in northern Algeria and central Algeria and southern Tunisia, still very black people, blacker than us. The itinerarium Perginorum was of the Crusaders. Everybody knows Vinsauf, the French Vinsauf. He wrote about the Moors being, their name means black. Okay, so he wrote about the Moors being black as well, up in 3 different places, as well as the Saracens being black as soot. Okay. Oops. Okay, so the Tuareg are an example of the Moors. They're not the, people like to focus on the Tuareg because they're tough people up there, but they're not even the major Berbers that were up there. But let's see. If you notice the veil they're wearing is because they used to be Magians. A Magian was somebody who worshipped the fire. And Magi comes from an Ethiopian word meaning priest. So these people were supposed to have lived, according to Ibn Khaldun, in the Rif area of Abyssinia before coming to North Africa for centuries. And that's why their genetics say that they are related to the Beja of Nubia. Okay. So I just wanted to get that, let's see. So, okay, here's Claudian talking in Bello Gildonico. Okay. Each Dessane noble matron is handed over to the Moors. Taken into the middle of Carthage, these Sidonian mothers, meaning the Roman women of Sidon, undergo marriage with barbarians. Gildo thrusts upon us an Ethiopian as a son-in-law, a Nasamone as a husband. The discolored child terrifies its cradle. So he's definitely talking about the Nasamones are still called Anusamani, the Tuareg Kel Anusamani. That's their name. Claudian also says, it's a different translation. The Sidonian mothers in their native land are to barbarians forced to give their hand. This to an Ethiopian yields her charms. So he's comparing the Nasamones with the Ethiopians. That breathed her sighs in Nasamonian arms. The frightful fruits that from the union rise even fill the very cradle with surprise. So Gildo is from the Tuareg word Galidam or Galidima. And that's also related to the word Goliath. The Tuareg chiefs are called Galidima. So Gildo, in this instance, is the son of Nubel of Mauritania, and his brother was Firmus. I messed that one up. So if you go to Wikipedia, we'll see these people in Roman sculptures that people put on there. So it has nothing to do with the Tuareg. Okay, but that's how modern people try to change the facts about ancient Moorish history. Okay, so Nubel and all those people you see, Nassanisa and all the chiefs of the Moors, a lot of them were Tuareg and other people, and they're trying to make them into basically, Mediterranean, Euro-Mediterranean people. So some other important facts. The Tifinagh script they use means belonging to the Finag or Phoenix, better known as the Phoenicians. And they still wear their Phoenician purple. Tifinagh script was the script found on the Canary Islands, which is why the early texts also speak about the black people in the Canary Islands. So they still claimed to come from Canaan, even when the colonialists contacted them, when they first contacted them. That's where that tradition comes from them, not from some other foreign people, from them. Ifrikish is the name of a king of Jericho. Traditionally, Ifrikish, otherwise called Farik, son of Ham, otherwise called Afarik. That's where the name Africa comes from. Okay, and the name of the Tuareg tribe, Ipharasis, otherwise called Kel Ifrain, is where that name is related to. So there were Jericho. See, I should have said this in the beginning. A lot of the places you see in the Bible, in fact, almost all related to the early Hebrews, in the first 5 books of the Bible are related to Southwest Arabia and not modern Syria. Southwest Arabia. And that's why people are very much interested in what I found and what this other man named Kamal Salibi has found, that all these names of the biblical peoples are found in Southwest Arabia, both the village names and the tribal names. So I'll just talk about that a little later. All right, I already talked about this. But anyway, the Tuareg were the second wave of Berbers that went, not even the major wave. So they were great raiders, and they were slave traders too, and that's why you get, like I said, Claudian talking about from very old times, Tuareg taking these slaves, or concubines, Roman concubines. Later on, of course, they started taking concubines from the inner part of Africa. So you find different colors, of Tuareg. The Tuareg that wear the purple or indigo colored veils, veils, and their turbans those are the nobles. The ones that wear the black and white, those are usually vassals or even slaves. Because Tuareg society is divided into vassal castes, which is many of the time is Songhai peoples, who are related to the people called Zagai and Zagawa. Okay, I discussed all that. They're matrifocal mainly, and so are a lot of the other original Berbers. And at least the dark-skinned ones are very matrifocal. So, yeah, they talk about the trident god, the trident in Greek mythology. You hear a lot about the trident things, and that's from their god, Amon-Nagi, otherwise called Inachus, god of water and god of high and low places, probably related to Shango and Wuhang and Dango, different African deities, which all are the same deity. So, like I said, the names retained among the Tuareg Nasamones is one of them, and they occupied the Gulf of Sidra in Libya, which was the coast of Libya. And they still practice the going to the graves to receive prophecies of their ancestors, like the ancient Nasamonians did. The Assyriani, also known to Josephus as Asurim, and in fact, a lot of these people who I'm going to talk about, Tuareg as well as the other, the Beriberi, are claimed by Josephus and other people to be Midianites, because the Midianites are the ones that colonized Canaan. So you guys use the word Moabite, and I'm going to get to that later, but Moabite was a king of these people, early king of these people. So Maziks or Amazigh is what they call themselves, as well as now people in North Africa who are not originally of Amazigh background but speak the Berber dialect. So you find, like I was married to what's called a Kabyle. Kabyles are very light-skinned. They live in northern Algeria along the coast, and you'll see most of them look like, either Turkish or Roman, and my husband looks just like one of those on those Roman coins now, with the hair missing here and wearing the olive branch and stuff. It looks just like that now, just like that. And the nose too. And his family actually comes from the ruling family of Algeria. His uncle or adopted uncle was the prime minister, and then his father was put in the position of in charge of the transportation, his uncle in charge of labor, and so they come from a very powerful family in Algeria. But his family claimed that their ancestors came from Sicily. So, which is true. They can't be related to they're partially related because they dance very well. Some of them dance better than African Americans. Their rhythm is more, and that's not a stereotype, because I know I grew up in a neighborhood in Cherry Hill. It's not African American neighborhood. So, but they have African blood, but the problem is, like, his brother-in-law is head of the Amazigh organization here in America, and he tried to claim to me, and I was always arguing with him, that the Tuareg are not the real Berbers. Okay, that his people in Kabylie were the real Berbers. And what I was trying to explain to him was that Kabylie was colonized by the Vandals, and later by the Byzantines, and by other people. He just looks striking like, I'm not going to say that on camera, because I don't want to get. By the way, it's my ex-husband, and we get along well, so I'm not going to ruin anything. Probably already did. I have my blog spot. But so what I'm saying is there's been a lot of colonization by European-related peoples and Levant peoples, and that's been proven by DNA as well as, oral tradition. Because before the 14th century, there's no mention of fair-skinned Berbers. They're always described as blacks, literally described as black skin or black. Now, you do have a few that are saying that among these blacks there were whites, and they're using the word Biad or Abiad, which is a name for people that look like either have clear skin tone, shining black skins, or look a little darker than me. That's what white means in Africa. And if you go to Africa, of course, they'll call you white. You know that, don't you? A lot of you too. Everybody in here. Because they're not used to seeing people that they'll just naturally assume that you belong to the whites, which is just a name for people that were of a a certain caste of people in certain places. The Mand, even, the Mand people like the Marca and the Wangara, they call themselves the whites. So it's a different way of speaking than over here. So I was a little surprised about that because I had braids in my hair at the time and I was like, okay. But, okay, so Maziks, that's the general name for Berbers now. Amazigh, and the Maziks were an Ethiopian people in North Africa called, they're called Mazika, and they spread to Jordan. They were spread to Jordan at the time. All the people I'm talking about also today were at one time located on the opposite side of the Red Sea. Okay, so that's why they say Mazika was son of Canaan, son of Ham, son of Noah. Yeah. Oh, I thought you guys would have known that reading my blog. So most Berbers claim descent from Mazig. And Ibn Khaldun, so-called historian of North Africa, or of history, of Muslim father of history, said that Berbers from Mazig, son of Canaan, son of Ham, and from the Philistines, related to the Philistines and stuff. He also said that he said that the Berbers, most people in his time thought that the Berbers were black from a curse. So we know that, definitely. And the word, sometimes people try to say that, well, they didn't really mean black when they said black, but that's only in the European dialects. In Arabic, black means black. Okay, it doesn't mean something like olive skin or whatever, or swarthy. Okay, so I talked about the Ephores, who live still in Mali and Niger. They once inhabited Tunisia. They came from the Assyriani. The Assyriani, as I was trying to say, or Asurim, were brethren of the Medianites, the Lahumim, Latushim, and all these people that settled in, according to Josephus, troglodyte Ethiopia, which was the area of the Horn of Africa. So the Tuareg are the people who founded the Almoravid dynasty. Okay, they're still known by their names: Al-Lumadin, Igadolin, Imusafan. I was saying before that the name Iguadola, if you look at the Tuareg are very, in places like the Hagar area and other places in North Africa, Tuareg are actually giants. They're very tall people. And so are the Wodabe, and the Watutsi. So some Watutsi are over 8 feet tall. And that's how a lot of the Arabians were described, and that's how a lot of the Saracens were described, and the reason is because they came from some of those people. Okay, so people think that, oh, they're just exaggerating and stuff. No, some of those people are tall as I don't know what. The Tutsi especially. The Almohads, the rise of an empire, says the Tuareg are probable descendants of the Almoravids. The Almoravids mentioned in the primary chronica of Alfonso X mentions the 300 Amazons, they're called black, and their leader is Nugamat al-Turgiya, meaning the Tuareg, because the Tuareg women were very, just as warlike as the men, and they were actually controlled what the men did a lot. They would send them to war. They said, go fight these people and stuff. But, so that's the Tuareg, the matrifocal. I talked about them. And as you can see, they're not very, very fair-skinned people. Most Tuareg are not fair, but they try to show a lot of times the fairer-skinned ones. And I have nothing against fair-skinned people. My mother is lighter than anybody in here. My brother, my son, lighter than anybody in here. So because we're from mulatto peoples and African-American peoples, or African peoples. But the thing is, these people were not so much mulattoes. Some of them had absorbed, like the Tuareg absorbed a lot of they're, like I said, concubines, but they were not originally, they were originally black. So according to Ibn Rakik, I think he was the 10th century, the first people to inhabit Barbary were 5 colonies of Sabians under Ibn Ifriki, that's Iphrasis again, king of Yemen, and that they gave birth to 600 tribes of Berbers. So, as I said before, Yemen, or the southern part of Arabia, is where these ancient Hebrews or Canaanites came from. There's an area called Wadi Kanona, in the area south of Mecca and running into the Yemen, which had the Canaanite peoples, or Canaan. And the Canaan named the land of Canaan, or the land of Canaan. So Ibn Battuta also, I think he was also around that time, witnessed the dress, customs, and appearance of the people of Dhofar in the Yemen, and said, resemblance bears out that the Sinhaja and other tribes of the Maghreb are of Himyarite origin. Himyar being son of Sheba or Saba. And Sabians actually came to occupy both sides of the Red Sea. That's why you talk about the Queen of Sheba, she's said to be Ethiopian, because they knew that the Queen of Sheba, even Solomon sometimes was said to be black. You ever hear that tradition?
Yeah.
Solomon said to be black. And that's because actually Solomon and Sheba or Saba, the Queen of Saba were supposed to be cousins. In the Arab tradition, they're cousins. So it wasn't like a question of, oh, Sheba was black and Solomon was, white and Jewish. No, they were both from the same people originally. So Ibn Khaldun, after refuting the theories of others, says the Berbers are the children of Canaan, son of Ham, son of Noah. Their ancestor was named Mazik. Their brethren were the Girgashites, the Philistines, children of Casluhim, son of Mizraim, son of Ham, were their relatives. Their king bore the name of Goliath. That's why I said their chiefs are still named Galadima, or Galadi, or Agwalid. And it was the alliance of the Philistines with the Girgashites and other Canaanites and their war against Israel that occasioned the legend that the Berbers were descendants of Goliath. Now, and also in the Hebrew or Hebraic tradition of Spain, because there are many European, or not European, but Roman Jews that settled Spain as well as original Jews, they always called the Berbers Philistines, or the Tauric Philistines, especially during the Almoravid period when the Tauric were there. They just said Philistines. They said the Philistine dynasty, Ibn Said of Andalusia, 13th century, on the Himyarite king, said, they left behind a history of glory well known in the east and the west, in the north and in the south. Of their great kings we name Yarab ibn Qatan, or Joktan of the Bible, Saba ibn Yashjib, or Sheba, Al-Harith al-Raish, who is Rashi, if you know the rest of the Bible, Dul-Manar and Dul-Adhar, who's also called Darius, ancestor of the Berbers, or Teras, or Atlas, who founded the Atlas region, Abu Mu'in Ifrikus, who founded or lived in Tunisia. So Tunisia was actually the name of Africa. Africa was the name of Tunisia, not the whole of Africa. So when your prophet, maybe he's says about, we ruled Tunisia, Africa, that's where Africa was, actually Tunisia. And Hannibal himself of Carthage, which is Tunisia, was called Hannibal Afar, meaning the African, or Afarikani, one of these people. So probably a Tuareg. He might not have been, but let's see. Let's see if I covered that. So Ephrakesh, like I said, was supposed to be king of Jericho as well as of the Himyarites, because Himyar or Hamor was the first king of Canaan. So anytime you're talking about Genesis, you're looking at the Canaanites, just know you're talking about the same people that the Berbers are talking about, or the Arabs are talking about. When they talk about Himyar, that's Humer or Hamor, king of Canaan. So Afran was a Midianite. He was son of Midian, and Afra was also called, it's mentioned by Josephus. He married Hercules, who's the Phoenician of Canaanite Melkarth, the god Melkarth, and Berber ancestor Harith or Harik. The Torah called her ancestor Harik, who's a descendant of Mazik. And Diodorus was, like I said, Dul Adar up there. There's Diodorus, who Josephus talks about, or Darius, ancestor of the Berbers. He's also in Greek mythology called Atlas. Okay. So I have all the references for all this on my blogspot. I can't, go into it all here, but like I said, that's why a lot of people are interested in my blogspot, because they said, it all fits together like a Rubik cube. Okay, so just to go over some of the names that are found anciently and modern times on both sides of the Red Sea. The Afer or Ophir Afar, or Afir. He's also called Farain bin Bali. He's a sub-tribe of the Sulaim Arabs further north, and I'll talk about the Sulaim later on. The Hadarab, or Beja. Everybody knows who the Beja are? The Beja? The Beja are the people south of, let's see if I have a picture later on. In Nubia, you see them with the wild hair. They're called the Fuzzy Wuzzy sometimes by the colonialists. They have the spears. You know who the Nubians are? Yes. And you've seen then the pictures of the Beja. Well, anyway, they're the ones that are called, they call them Cushites, but a lot of them actually also came over from southern Arabia. There's a Samal, or bin Samal, the same thing as Somali, who in the north lived in Babylon. They lived in Babylonia. So scholars think today that their name Sumuel is Ishmael, because Sumuel had tribes among them called Kedarites, or Kedar. Does anybody know who the Ishmaelites were?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Because now I'm going back to basics. If you don't know who the Ishmaelites were, they're the people who were like counter to Israel and Ishmael. And these people, Israel and Ishmael, were actually the same people, but we'll go into that later. They just split up into different tribes. So you also have the Mari, and I'll go through the Mari of the Kuda Himyarites, and they're found on both sides. The Makir, the Kala, or the Falasha, they're the same people as were named Azd, who were followers of a man named Muzekiah and Sarifa in their legend, who turned out to be Moses and Zipporah, who left Meribah. In the Bible it says Meribah, but in their land it's called Marib. Marib is where Sana'a is now, Sana'a in Arabia, in Yemen. Okay, so now there's different people occupying Yemen. There's both black or blacker people looking like Ethiopians, and there's fair-skinned people looking like Syrians there too, and Iranians. People that their ancestors came from all over. So Arabia and North Africa, they're all mixtures of different people. Not all of them are dark skin like I'm talking about, but the ancient ones were, and I'll talk about that later. All right, okay, so there's the Huber, who we'll talk about, the descendants of the Yahar or Yafi bin Kased in the book of Jashur. And those are the people that were called Kazdim, like Ur of Kazdim, or Urfaxad. The Kazdim were the Chaldeans, according to Josephus and other ancient historians, or ancient observers. Okay, so here's the Arabian people called Yahar. They live on both sides of the Red Sea, but these are the Arabian clan, and they're actually part of the Yafi bin Kasid, literally today. That's what their name is. But anciently, they're also called Yafi bin Kasid. Their brethren in the book of Jashur, or Jashur, are called Ben-Ani, who are also called Benjamin. So the Benjamin tribe of Israel. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Kased is in the first part of the Bible. I think they're sons with Aram and Nahor and all Terah and all those people. So, and you have to understand too, the Beja, if you don't know who the Beja are, it's very important you know who they are, because they're called by the Arabs, the Hadoram are called the folk of Noah. Okay, meaning Noah was called Al-Jarhami, or of the Hadoram tribe. So here's the Yahar of Somalia. And as I said, they're the people that are called, is Sharif in here? No. He wanted to hear about the Chaldeans and stuff. Okay. But anyway, these are the same people in Somalia. Yahar, Yabir, or Hubir, and that word is actually related to the word Hebrew. They're just called the Jews. They're discriminated against because they're among the last people to turn. They never turned Muslim. And originally, Ethiopia and a lot of these places were completely Hebraic. But then when the Muslims came in, they turned them, and some of them remained Jewish. That's how that worked. Or Hebrew, call themselves Hebrew. So here's something you could read online. It says the Yabir, also known as the Yahar, are a small clan of Somalia subsisting as itinerant soothsayers and magicians. Itinerant soothsayers and magicians. Soothsayer meaning someone who could tell, the future and stuff like that. Centuries ago, they levied astrological taxes and practiced an amalgam of Judaism and Islam. Now, astrology was one of the main practices of the Chaldeans. You know about the Chazdim or Chaldeans? They were specialists in magic and astrology and fortune telling, that kind of thing. So there's a whole book called, I think, Magic of the Chaldeans, or that they wrote. Actually, that book is where we get modern hermeneutic tradition, Chaldean magic. So there's somebody you might want to study. If I don't get there first, you might want to study them. So they're knowledgeable in what's called fall, fortune telling, 6-year, black magic, and exorcism. So they're basically very spiritual, powerful spiritual people. Originally, all of these people were like that, but like I said, Islam of the Middle Eastern tradition came in and wiped a lot of that out. You weren't allowed to do that stuff because of how it was, how powerful it was. So they're the people that make up magic amulets to place around newborn children. And I'm just talking about your favorite subject, but it's over now. But, so when they talked about the Magi coming to the newborn Jesus, that's who they were talking about, the Chaldean Magi, come to bless the child. Okay, so Sharif, I was just talking about how these were the Chaldean Yahar clan of the Yafi bin Kased or Kazdim, and then I went through and showed them, and we're talking about what all their practices, Chaldean practices. Yes.
Are they the same people as the Persians?
No, but I'll get to that later. Persians were also Asiatics. Originally, but then Scythian people came down into their region. Now Persians, I know what you're getting at, the Persian Magi, yeah. So they're kind of related people, but that's a long time ago. That's why the Greeks always confused the Medes with the Medianites. Okay, because originally they went up to Syria and then came down through Anatolia into Iran. That's how old these people go, way back into, well, anyway, I'll get to that. So Magi in Ethiopia means priest. They're also known anciently in Asia as the Halib or the Hittites. Wow. And you'll see that in Diop's book, the Chaldeans and Halibs and Hittites are the same people. And now I'm going to show you how they're still called by the same names today. Okay, so the Berbers I was talking about are the ancestors of African Americans, both the Tuareg and the Beriberi. The word Berber comes from the Beriberi, or these people called Songhai, Zagai, Sugai, Isuagen, Zagawa, and related, or Zagwe. Okay, so the Beriberi were the same people as the Berbers and the same people as these people who were brought over to America and thus were called Berbers in the so-called, I guess it's factual, so I shouldn't say so-called, but the Negro legal document of South Carolina talks about the Berbers and how they were the Negroes were the ancient Berbers. Remember, it says that. And somebody one of the Moors found that out, actually. I know that, because I took it from them. Was that you? No? Okay. Okay. Somebody a long time ago found that out, and I took that, I said, I ran with it because it just confirmed what I've been saying. So the modern Zagawa, or Beriberi, call their smiths Hadahid, which means ironworker or blacksmith, and it's the same word or root as Hittite. The sons of Heth, or Hadi, it's Hadh in Arabic. Modern Yabir in Somalia are also known as the Hadahada, which now connotes sorcerers. The book of Ezekiel states that the mother of Jerusalem was a Hittite or Hethite. And I'll talk about that later, how the Sulaim tribes are the same people that were called Hittites also, and Salma or Kenites. And if you look in the Bible, if you know the Bible, where the Judeans come from, that's where they come from, the Kenites. Okay, so that's why these people, the Zagwe dynasty of Ethiopia, were Jews. The Agau are still Jews, or the Falasha came from the Agau. And they call themselves Kala, which I was talking about before, was the name of the Arab people that settled in Mecca after Moses, fled that area. They settled in Medina. And they were called the Ansar, or companions of the Prophet. Khazraj, Kaza, or Kuza sometimes, and Aus, or Uz, the word. So anyway, then I'll have to talk about Ubada bin Samit, who was the leader that went into Byzantine Egypt. He was a giant black man, because the Khazraj and the Ansar were giants, black giants. And this, you can also find some of this talked about in the book, the new little book that comes out by Tariq Berry. I forget it, The Unknown Arabs. Okay, he actually quotes me in there, but and it has a lot of stuff that's wrong in there. But he does have references of the people in Arabia that were called black, and he's the one that brought out the information that to say Biyad, or white, among Arabs was not the same thing as what we call it. They literally said in their dictionaries that it does not mean does not literally mean white. It means such and such, shining skin one. Not. I'm still surprised you guys are. Nobody's reading my blog spot. I'm like, that's why I put that information up. But anyway, the references are all there about what I'm talking about. So blacksmithing in central Sudan is dominated by the Halab. We just talked about them. The Halib or Halab, the Greeks called them Halib or Halib in Asia when they were there, which is the Arabic name for Aleppo. That's historically, this guy's saying, that's historically the blacksmith may have Syrian or Gypsy lineage. That's because the Gypsies also claim to come from Tubal Cain and from Africa. The real Gypsies claim to come from Africa, even today. Some of them quote my stuff, to tell you the truth. In ancient times, Chaldeans, or the Khalid, Bani Khalid, and the Halab and Hittites, or Hadahid of Asia Minor and Syria were considered one and the same people. Okay, so I was talking about Gypsies. Okay. Now this is not, okay. Let me just show you. So in ancient times, in ancient times, what happened was a lot of the people that were along the Nile, people who worshipped deity Nu, and in Egyptian texts it's called the Ark of Nu, the story of the Ark of Nu. They moved into this area, Southwest Arabia, and they're called Sabians, Himyarites. But their original names were Israel or Yisrael and Canaan or Kanuna. So this is the area of Wadi Kanuna. And here you find a lot of the names here, you won't recognize them, but the Mara, I talked about how they're also found in Somalia. The Mafir, I'm going to show you the picture of the Mafir, or Mafia people. The Yafi, see they're right across from here, the Horn in Somalia, still there. And Sana is where Marib was, or the Mariba of Exodus. So these people, when there's a basic tradition among Arabians, or Muslims in general, that talk about, like I said, Amr Muzaikia and Zarifa, or sometimes called Tariqa el-Himyari. And this turns out to be the same story of Moses and Zipporah, the Cushite. Now she's called Cushite because the name Cush comes from the river they settled on. It's called in the Bible Kishan, and the people are called Kushan or Jakshan. So that's why they talk about the Jakshan and the Midianites. And Joseph says these people all came over here and settled in Barbaria or Troglodyte area of Africa. This area is called Barbaria, by the way. Barbaria, not barbarian, but Barbaria. Because the Berry settled there, and that word, believe it or not, is probably related to Hebrew, the word Hebrew. And that's why I was talking to you about the Hubir, or Huber, and the Ubir, or Yafi tribes and their relationship to Yafi ben Kasib. They're still called Yafi ben Kasib. They're mentioned in the book of Yashar, which is an ancient book of the Hebrews. So all I'm telling you is what's already there. It's not Dana Marniche that's making this stuff up. I'm getting it directly from those people, and also from this European scholars, Western scholars, who just have not figured out, why all this stuff doesn't make sense, because they cannot find ancient Israel. They cannot find any of the places of Syria. I mean, in Syria, the place names of the people in Israel, and they in fact say that the tribes of Israel were lost, which they're not. 5 people. And you know what? 10 years ago, I would have thought that was crazy. But the sad truth is that that's how distorted the history of the earth has become.
Yes.
Really? Surprise, right? So the Israelites came from a place called Canaan, Wadi Kunana, and here you find the tribe of Dawas, who come from the Dawas here, and I'll show you them in a bit. Dawas is mentioned as Yeush, the Edomite, and there's the Az people that were there. I think this is from the 6th century, or Muhammad's time, around where these tribes are. But anyway, so after these people left this area, the followers of Moses and Zarepha I'm talking about, or Zephora, they went into this area and to this area. And then later on they moved northwards and around the Aegean, where they're called the sons of Japhet, meaning spread abroad. It means, the word Japhet actually comes from the word ta, meaning the hammer. It's the same thing as Jupiter or Thor. It's the same thing. So what happens, we're talking about how these people were split apart, by the hammer.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
Yeah, you'll find out. But anyway, all these tribes are actually, you don't know it, but these tribes are actually biblical names and names in the Quran. Saleh or Saleh, it's called Sheila in the Bible. Okay, and these people are still, they're dark brown color. Bara was Samara. So these tribes, Kudah and Az, travel north. In Saba, there were 2 important peoples, the Kalan and the Joktan or Katan. In the Bible, they're called Joktan. So the Kalan were Az people, and other people called Madij. And they went north, like I said. Now, the myth, allegory of Ham, Shem, and Japhet comes from Hamron and Shamron. Shamron meaning the shepherd people, or people that were, the Shamron are still, the name of people in, I think I need my, the charger. The people that are in charge of the agriculturalists you have across Africa, what are called client tribes, and they're protectors. So the Tuareg, for example, they have the vassal classes of the Zagawa or Wangara or man people. And in Arabia they had the same thing. They had people that were the smiths, agriculturalists, and miners of these protectors, or the nomadic people, pastoral nomads. Oops.
I just put it like that so you can see.
Now, do I need, can I do this or no? I guess not.
Yeah, just
Oh, okay. No, I can't.
Point it at the computer, right?
Okay.
You got the word put ahead of the
So I go up. But I just wanted to tell you that the myth of Shem, Ham, and Noah has nothing to do with different colored people. It has to do with their lifestyle that these people have today in the Sahara and Sahel and Sudan, northern Sudan. In fact, all the berry, are found all over West Africa and then, the Guinea coast, along the Guinea coast. And like the Tuareg too are found in Guinea-Bissau and Burkina Faso.
Mm-hmm.
So, does it not work? Well, anyway, so I was trying to make the point that Arabian and the ancient Arabian and modern African people have the same custom of societal, stratification, shepherds or protectors, and it's a house.
Mm.
And then the agriculturalists or smiths and miners and the people that make the metallurgists, and then you have the slaves, unfortunately. So that's how a lot of African societies were, and that's also the same thing that was in Arabia. So Shimron were the protectors, Hamron were the people that worked with agriculture or the vines. That's why you see in the Bible, the story of Noah, he's, Hamron, meaning, Noah got drunk and his son did something, saw him naked or something.
Yes.
So that allegory comes from that, from the word hammer or ahmar, before it came to mean generally people of European background, because that word came to mean slave.
Wow.
The word ahmar meant slave, but originally it came from the South Arabian word meaning grape. So the grape and the vine, Hamron and Shimron, that's where that comes from. So I have, like I said, I have all this in the blog. We're able to. Okay, so this is a tribe in Israel, modern Israel today, called Kenana. If you know anything about the Quraysh came from the tribe of Kenana. So Kenana are also related to people called the Hudhail, who are located between Mecca and Medina. They look the same. They were said to invite colonialists to have shining black skin. And that's in the sacred part of, it's called the Haram, the sacred part of Arabia, between Mecca and Medina. So when the Chinese explorers visited, they said they saw the people there, and they were all of a dark, very dark purple color. So that's why also when, that's the area of Sulaim too. Sulaim in Mansur, that Al-Jahiz talks about. So when they visited that area, they saw very dark-skinned people, as black as lava. That's what Al-Jahiz says, as black as lava. And those people happen to be related to the same people that were in Central Arabia, or the Najd. All the tribes that were in the Hijaz were in the Najd. So in the 14th century, Ibn Khaldun considers this area Sudan. Bilad is Sudan. That's part of that. So all these tribes I'm listed here are related to the Kuda and are the Midianites. If you look in the Bible, you'll see that the names Shimron, Kenite, not Kenites, but Kalb. Anyway, I'll tell you when I'm bringing them up. So if you look at the book I was talking about, The Unknown Arabs, there's a video about these people. I got this, I think, in the video. They're living in the Asir region near, which actually this area was called Israel before. But now it's called Asir. And in Tariq's book, it talks about how the tribe of Abs, or who are actually called also Yabs or Abs, they say there was an eyewitness observer back in the medieval time and said, "Oh, I see black men stamping," talking about the Abs. "I see black men stamping their feet with spears." So these are these people. But the word Yabs, according to Kamal Salibi, who wrote the Bible in Moravia, is the word Jebusite. So Jebusites actually founded Jerusalem. And that's important because if you know anything about the Salimi, the Tacitus spoke of, the Salimi? No. So I must have been doing a lot of research back in the day, in the 80s that a lot of people weren't doing. But I used to read J.A. Rogers,
Yes.
Sheikha Anta Diop. There was a man named Hansberry, Leo Hansberry. If you read those books, you'll see a lot of this information. Those are classic, black classics. You won't see that in Dr. Clark's books. Dr. Henry Clark, whatever his name. The guy that came up and yelled at me for saying this stuff at one lecture one time. So you won't see it in his books because, they're very Pan-African, but they don't include black Asians, Asian people. Like you already know.
Right.
Okay, so here's some Mahra and people of Hadramaut or southernmost parts of Arabia. The Hadramaut here are visiting this. There's 3 Hadramautis here and they're visiting Indonesia, or settling in Indonesia. And here's Indonesia. But you can see they look like just like the Ethiopians, right? Now here's the Dawasir tribe I was talking about of Central Arabia. These people are described as black giants, and they're very, they're very tall and very dark, black, in fact. And so those are the people that of the Azd. They still recognize themselves as the Azd. So when the Azd moved north, these tribes of Khazraj, otherwise known as Gezer, Aus, or Uz, the biblical Uz, and Haza, or Hazo, if you look in the Bible, there are sons of Aram. They brought that name Aram up there. And also further north, they were called Nabateans. So they live in a place called Falaj el-Falaj, which is the land of Peleg. If you know in the Bible, Peleg was a son of Shem.
Right.
Okay? And the brother of Katan. So, today there's still among the certain tribes up in Jordan, up in Israel and Sinai, and as well as around Mecca and Medina, black or near black people that have the tribal names of the ancient Sulaim. Does everybody know the Sulaim? Banu Sulaim?
No.
Okay, well, they're very important because Al-Jahiz, the 9th century author, speaks about them, as well as a Kurdish author who talks about the black, the being black. So they're supposed to be black as lava, but they extended all the way to Syria. And there were actually people in the Bible called the Salma as well, Salma or Shalmai. And so that's why, and you hear, their book was called the Psalms. So many of these people still have the names of those people that were called Salmai, Salmai, or Shalmai. They still call themselves in certain areas the Salamians. And the Salamians were actually, in the Bible even says Salma was, in one place, he's the son of Manasseh, the Israelite. Other places he's the son of Nahshon, or other places he's Caleb, son of Caleb, who is Cal, the Banu Cal, and also in that area. So this on the right here, these are Hawite people. They also live in Tehama, which is further south. And their ancestor is Hewat bin Ham, whom certain scholars have said, or Polybius authors have said is the same word as Hivite, the word Hivite, which I actually figured that out myself before I saw that. But so they're the Hivites, and the reason I know that is because they're closely related to certain other people called Cain or Kenites and Hamathites. So I know some more about the Hamathites, but that's where also we get the word Ham.
Yes.
And the Hamada are still there too, and they're found among the Harb, who are also dark brown people in that area. Oh, sorry. Because I know.
It's all good. I put it on the radio.
Okay.
Thank you.
No. Can you hear me?
What's up? Yeah, I got you back.
I got you from the back. I'm sorry.
So let's see. It says. Oh yeah, so I even have it here. It says, and Robinson or Eli Smith has shown that this word, this is somebody writing in quotes actually, it's not my word, right? And Robinson, or rather Eli Smith, has shown that this word, Haywat, corresponds closely with Hivite. So that's in a book called Kadesh Barnea, written in 1884. So the Hivites, Hamathites, Salmites, or Shalmai, Manasseh or Mansur, which is the medieval name, Sulaim bin Mansur, Kenites, or Al-Kain, who were a branch of the Kudah Himyarites. See, all these people, like I said, came from the south and came up northward. In the Jewish or Hebrew Targums, the Shechemites are supposed to be the Salmanians. So that's why, anyway, the Shechemites also were down south. And Kamal Salibi also mentions that this village is now called Al-Kashma. And also the Beit Lahim, or in the Bible they're called the Humim, brethren of the Midianites. So the Beit Lahim found in Bethlehem. That's why it says, in the Bible it says Salmai found in Bethlehem. And in ancient times the people were called Solomonians, or Solemians, S-O-L-Y-M-E. Salini. So, is everybody following me?
Islam, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, because it's so much information. Sorry. So, there's a man named Moshe Gil, who's very well respected Israeli linguist and historian. He says the Targum, which is the Hebraic commentary on the Bible, calls the Kenites sons of Jethro, Salameans, the sons of Salma. So the Salameans, like I said, were the ancient peoples. They're also, like I said, today's people, but they are mentioned by early authors like Pliny and other ancient Greek authors in that same area where these Hawatite people are now. So that's another way of saying that the Al-Kain, or Kenites, were descendants of the Midianites, Jethro or Reuel or... oh. So Joseph considered the Kenites the people of the Shechem. I already said that in his Antiquities book 6. So every time I say something that these people are related, I'm getting it from one of those people. I'm not just making that up. I'm not assuming it. Genesis 34 describes the Hivites ruling the region of Shechem. And now, when we're talking about that region, Canaan and Edom and all those places, we're talking about further south. And they just came up north together. Further south, there were 4 Hivite towns. Gibeon, Kephirah, Yerim is where you saw the Kassid. There's Kassid, Yapid and Kassid. And Shechem was son of Manasseh, as well as Hamida, which is also a Harp tribe that were described as, very dark. Actually, chocolate-colored people. They call them, some colonists said chocolate-colored people with bushy hair. So you'll see this in Joshua 17, in different books of the Bible. These people are all related. Shechem is also called son of Hamor or Himyar, the Hivite, because Hamor or Himyarites were the Hivites, who were sons of Canaan. So it's just repeating all again and again. Each source is repeating the same thing. Another brother, let me see if I can, is Helek. Another brother of Shechem is Helek. I can't show it, but son of Manasseh, and he's in the Hawatite also have a branch called Halik today, which is the same word. And they also have the Sulaim tribe there's one Sulaim tribe was known as a Hubaib, which was Hobab, the Kenite. And Hobab is also, I think, the brother of Moses. So, as we see here, Hobab's a Kenite. We have Salmon, the father of Bethlehem, a son of Caleb, a son of Hur. He's also said to be the father of Boaz and the Netuphathites. These are all Judean peoples. Okay, and this is the verse I'm going to show how these people came over as very, the same people.
Okay.
All right, and here's Madij, probably related to the tribe of the name Median, because, and this is, if you look in the book, The Unknown Arabs by Tariq Berry, he talks about how in the 12th century, an Arab writer, Ibn Rabihu, wrote, of Cordoba, wrote about how the Madij in the 8th century said, "A fair-skinned Arab is unthinkable and as rare as the 7th wonder of the world."
Wow.
Yeah, you guys have to get that book. Here's another Mahra. Here's the Keturah, or Beit Ketir, who crossed over. They're located in Hadra Mountain, very south of Arabia. Right across from, and Arabia is less than 20 miles from the Horn of Africa. So why are these people going to be different? None of them are different.
Right.
They're not.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
The same people, but, And these people, though, by the way, speak the ancient Sabaic languages, not these right here in South Arabia still speak the ancient Sabaic or Himyarite languages. And they claim, it's them that claim that originally they came from Africa. in remote times, they came from Africa. And I have writing of colonialists that says that their tradition is that. So here's how many son of Lotan. In the Arabic tradition, he's called El Yatan or something like that, because he was the inventor of the lance. So he's actually not pure Arab. He's mixed with something, just to show they're still dark. Okay, the Sabians are mentioned by Strabo as dancing with swords, like the people across in Djibouti, next to Somalia, still do. The women dance with swords. Okay, so we still have that. And as I said, that Somali, and these are Afar women, by the way, Afar, who are called Afrin in the Bible, and by Joseph. These are also in from Hajjamot, these Jews, meaning they're the ones that remain Jewish, because most people have been converted to Islam, but before that they were either, had different causes, or they were Christians, because the first Christians were also from these people, called Manaeans. These Habaniya, though, claim descent from Bahila, who in the Bible is called Bilhah. And in my blog I show how the tribes of Bilhah are still under the same names, or the children of Bilhah have the same names as Bahila, but they're known as Bahila in Arabia. So Bahila was also from the Azd. And here's the Kayla, or like I said, they don't like the word Falasha, so they're supposed to use Kayla. I mean, they don't like Kayla either now. They're supposed to like Beta Israel. That's like Beta Israel. So the Beta Israel were originally from the Agal Ethiopians, who are now mostly not Jewish or don't claim Judaism, because it's much discriminated against. But anyway, it's their dynasty that was called the Zagwe dynasty. Now, I had a friend that was from Hajjamot, who was just like an Ethiopian, but his parents were killed in Israel because they thought that he was an Arab.
Wow.
But he told me that the Judaism that they practice is Kabbalah. No difference. So these people are the As that I talked about that were followers of Amar Muzekia and Zarifa of Marib. And Marib was built by a man named Lukman, or Lachman. Lukman, if you don't know, in Western tradition, he's called the Ethiopian, the woolly hair.
Right.
They think that Aesop's fables were originally from him. Yeah. But in Hebrew tradition, he's also called Balaam. And he worked for the Moabite Balak.
Wow.
Now here's the mafia fishermen I was talking to you about that were Himyarites. So when they, in the 15th century, the Chinese came to visit this is Hajjamot, it's not the Hejaz, but Hejaz is where Medina and Mecca are, the holy sites of.
That's right. That's right.
So when the Chinese adventurers came there, Zenhei's admiral took notes and said, the limbs and faces of the people between Mecca and Jeddah are of a very dark purple color. And they were very extremely religious, and they went veiled at that time. The women went veiled. Oh, that's 13th century. So this was called the description of the country of the heavenly square. That's what the title of his work was. Heavenly square meaning the Kaaba.
Kaaba.
And Beit Ketur, who are Keturah, ancestors of the Midianites in the Bible.
Wow.
So they're very much involved in incense trade, which is most of the incense trade in the world is found in this region, especially in Somalia. The foremost incense traders are the Afar Midianites. These are Afar. They're also called Danakil, from the name Enoch or Anak, the brother of Afar or Afrin, Midianite. Now also here, these people are located in Oman. There are also people that speak, ancient Sabbaic dialects. but Strabo calls them Garaeans and said they were actually descendants of the Chaldeans that were pushed out of Babylon. So a lot of people, most scholars don't try to connect those two, the Kara and the Garaeans, but they're the same people, and they practice different practices. Believe it or not, I don't. This might be embarrassing to some people, right? But in Africa, there was a tribe you might see have seen National Geographic sometimes. They show them, and a lot of people. It seems like they're kissing the private parts of a cow or cattle or something. I don't know if you've seen that. But what they're doing is blowing up the sexual organs of the cattle to produce milk, and that's what they do in the Kara country as well. And they're also very matrifocal. Oh, am I going back to you?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So, and you see, like a lot of these people look Ethiopian, but the Dower Seer look different. They don't look different. They look like some of the Nubians today, like these, and other people that we might not have seen. They have some very giant Nubians. And those people came down with the Medianites, the Khazar or Jazar, Khazraj or Jazar. Josephus calls them Jazar. In the Bible, they're called Gezer, Gezer. Okay, so I'm bringing all that up about the Berbers and the Chaldeans and the Nabateans and all that. The Nabateans too, like I said, were the northern branch of the Az, one of the northern branches that were located in the region of Petra, next to Sinai, and Jordan. So the early references to the Nabateans or Nabit is that they were black in color. Okay, so the word Nabit came to mean black, and that is written about in this guy I told you about that's actually endorsing my book, the Jewish guy that founded the Jewish college. He that kind of thing's in his book about the Nabateans and the fact that Kedar also came to mean black. So that's what you find also in Tariq's book, The Unknown Arabs. You have to get that one. About how the Kudar in the medieval times, and Ibn Jahis talks about how the Kudar Arabs related to Quraysh were always called that because they were black. The pure Arabs, meaning the noble Arabs. Kudar Said means noble or sir, because the original Said actually is related to a word meaning black. So when I first heard this stuff, I was like, some exaggeration, but it's not exaggeration at all. I found later. So the first people, according to Ibn Rakit, to inhabit Barbary were 5 colonies of Sabians who said that. And here's the Torah. Now, this to me doesn't look like a white man. It looks like them, right? It looks like a Philistine should look. A tall African. You can't see it on here, but the guy that wrote the book Kamal Salibi, the Battle of King Arabia, says the word Falash is probably related to that word. Because the people that live in that region now, they're still called, people called the Al-Falesa. So Philistine, which is what they were called, a Philistine, the land of the Philistine, Falasha. Okay, so here's the Berbers of the part of Morocco and South. The Masmuda and the Sanhaja Berbers occupied that area. The Masmuda are also called black in the 14th century by Abu Shama, a Syrian, by Ibn Butlan, an Iraqi in the, I think, 9th or 10th century, and by a Persian named Nasir Israel in the 11th century. And this is written about by different scholars, even Israeli scholars, that the Masmuda Berbers, who were Berbers along the coast and in the Atlas, were described as black and black skinned. So the Masmuda, by the way, founded the Almohad dynasty after the Almoravid dynasty. So let's see. And I told you that Maziks were described as an Ethiopian people in Roman times, but the name has been adopted now by all Berber speakers. Nationalists, usually nationalists are the northern people that are fair-skinned and are not really, don't have really that much Berber. Okay, so apparently the Targum, which like I said is a Hebrew commentary, European Jewish Hebrew commentary. It says Mazig, which is a translation of the biblical ancestor Dedan, son of Sheba, in the Targum. I don't know what the reference for that is, but I'm going to put it on. So again, we have another, Ibn Khaldun said, the son of Time Allah. Time Allah was a god of Nabateans and other Arab people.
Wow.
The son of Mazik, who are mentioned in Nabatean inscriptions. The son of Canaan, because all these people came from the Wadi Canalda. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
The son of King.
All right, so I talked about this already. The word Amorvid comes from, is related to Marabu.
Yes.
So men of the Rabat, a fortress. And they still have, like I said, their names, Alameddin, Gadol, and Imasufin, the Masufa tribes. All right, so here's Tuareg of Libya, Tuareg of Niger. They always have the camels, while the Zagawa are very always have the horses. They were horsemen. But sometimes they have camels. So this guy actually is, I think he's based here now in America. Either that or his company's based here. He's a smith, and he's also 7 feet tall. And it comes from a very ancient clan of Tuareg that do smithing, or silversmithing, which was it was one of the specializations of the Jewish people, the original Jewish people. So I think of one of the European Jewish people too. And here's another smith at the side. And like I said, they usually don't wear the indigo veil because they're not the noblemen, they usually wear the other types of veil. So the Zagai, or the passive Tuareg or Songhai, don't wear, like I said, the indigo, but they're Tuareg just the same. And they also went up, of course, into Spain with the noble caste. Okay? So these are the original Berbers that came down from Morocco that really made up the Masmuda. And they're called Bafur, or in ancient times the Muri Bavaras. Okay, so they're also known in Africa Soning or Aswanek, Wangara, Aheldara, Yarama, Jarma Sankai, Isuagan, Nagawa, and these are the people that, according to the Portuguese writers, founded Carthage. They said they were the Phoenicians who founded Carthage.
Right.
They call themselves the Beriberi.
Wow.
So they also originally were, like I said, considered Jews. Most of them were considered Jews, and that's how that tradition is now. It's being brought up by different peoples in Africa, like the Yoruba have a group around them that are Jewish too. It's because these people came down, and actually, they used to say that Jewish people founded Ghana and all that stuff, but it was these people, not European Jewish or Syrian Jewish, just Songhai, the Songhai people, otherwise called Sonik. So, regular Beriberi, or Berbers. They call themselves Beriberi. They came from the north of Africa, originally down and founded these civilizations, like Gal, like Dar-Tichit, Dene. So they were traders, they were gold miners and goldsmiths and gold miners, gold traders. So golden traders of the Moors, that's where we get that. There's Dene. Of course, Tuareg founded with them Timbuktu. This is Dar-Tichit. You notice all these civilizations look the same. And they're the same across the Sudan and Sahara. And originally North Africa. They were covered with, a lot of these towns were covered with white paint. And we call the white towns of the Sahara. These are also, these actually are combination living in Libya now, northern Libya, in the Fusa berbers. There's a bunch of the Zanata, people called Zanata berbers. So that's their town. You see, it looks just like Carthage. Ancient, these very ancient towns. Going back, 2,000 years ago. These are the people that had no history.
Isn't that something?
Here's the belly. Belly's a gawa, and I talked about the belly. Important about them is because one of their groups was the Al-Kain among the Sulaim. And there are the miners of the Sulaim that I mentioned in the medieval period too. The Sulaim tribes of northern Arabia and the Medina region. It's called Harat Sulaim. But they also stretch between Jordan, the Dead Sea, and Mesopotamia.
Wow.
They're called Salomeans, Salini, or Salma, the founders of Jerusalem, both in, actually there are several of them in the south, and there was one in the north later on. But these people fought against the Greeks in their mythologies. And here's the kind of very. Okay, and here's more very of Central Algeria. They speak a language related to the ancient Rif dialects, Rif of Morocco. The Rif region of Morocco, which is Tangiers, Mauritania, Tana, across from Spain. So those are the people that Isidore was talking about when he said the Moors are black as night, while the Gauls were white.
I heard some of their songs, and I definitely recognize the melodies and the cadences of their songs are similar to some of the backwood churches that I visited growing up.
That's why I put that up there, so people would know. I thought, was it just my imagination? So yeah, Merzik in North Libya. Now, if you look at the ancient Sicilian Moors, they also, when they were kicked out into another part of Italy, some of the Moors had names like Merzouk, which is the name of these people. And the Tuareg also live there too. These are the people, like I said in other presentation. Gaddafi was working with them, trying to help them out, but then they got, I don't know if they got kicked out, but they got beaten up a lot. And they face a lot of discrimination now in Libya. Here they are in Chad again. They're horsemen. So when they went up into Spain, they were called Dinettes. Or the horsemen came to be known as Dinette. And just to let you know, I saw these people in my dreams before I even started studying this stuff, and I had to find out who they were. So that's part of the reason why, I thank my ancestors for showing me these people. So again, Tubu, Bahrain. Now the Tubu are also important because the Hawatate people as well that I showed you. The Hittite people in Jordan who also occupied the Tehama. Originally, this name is a group of people also called the Ma'in or Manaeans. And in the Bible, they're called Maonians and Ammonians, or Ammonites. And I was saying that the Ammonites had a king named Moab, or U'abba, and that's like the name Moabite. So when the medieval writers talk about the Moabites, Muawiyah in Arabic now, Muawiyah, the descendants of Muawiyah, the Moabitarim, they're talking about these people. The Garan people. These are all related people, very. Descendants of the Kenites I was talking about. So these are in the, they came from the north to central Algeria. And also, these people were part of the Hausa. So that's why many of the features of the Hausa towns and cities were similar to that of the Zagawa. And the Hausa merchants, what was I going to say? There's a book out about the Hausa related to Canaanites. It's something about Canaanites and Israelites centered. Africa focused, Canaanite Israelite centered. And it's a German scholar that writes about it because their traditions are all about coming from Canaan. And a lot of the traditions of Africans are about coming from Canaan. So when people in this country start saying that we're talking about something, or I'm talking about something that's not accepted by Africans, that's not true. That's not the African way. The Africans are the ones that have those traditions of coming from Canaan.
Wow.
Yeah, because oftentimes people will try to dispute that by using DNA tests, and they will say, well, my DNA traced to this tribe and that tribe and that tribe, but they don't realize that those tribes themselves have traditions that have come from Canaan.
Oh, of course, yeah. The Africans are the ones that come from Canaan. And we, to the extent that we have African blood, is the extent that we come
Chapter 47.
from these people. But it's not African Americans and not Africans that come from Canaan. I haven't seen that a lot. I don't know where that comes from. But so Imaraguin, these are the Imaraguin or Sonic of the Atlantic coast, the fishermen of the Atlantic coast. As you can see, they look like the fishermen of Aden I just showed you, the Monopier Himyarites, same person called. That's what I say all the time. Say, So lost history, but now it's returned. So
Right.
thank God.
Right.
So here's the Muslim again. Like I said, they're all the same people. So they went to Spain as not Berbers, or Berbers, and they had places there all over Spain, all over Iberia. But of course, black people and Moors were supposed to be different people, right? Look for a book on the Moors as black skin anyway.
Yeah.
That's right.
The word Moor did not mean Muslim. The word Moor meant black for years, for centuries. And the early Moors were Berbers before they became. Also, sometimes Arabs are called because, like I showed you, the original Arabs are black too. But yes.
Could you speak on the idea of Moor meaning Westerner and where that originated?
Well, what originated is because the Amorites, or Amaru, otherwise known as Nabateans, in the Assyrian records, worshipped a god named Muru, also known as Murugan in India, and Murungu in East Africa, storm god of the mountains. So we know him as Mars today.
Wow.
But that's why you see in Nona's book, named Greek or Greco-Roman writer of the 4th century wrote about Moors being the sons of Mars. Okay, so yeah, the Portuguese writers who came to North Africa apparently were told that these people, the Berberi, ancestors of everybody in here, founded Carthage. So we should not be blamed for that, for saying, called Afrocentric, or called radical, for saying that the Berbers were black or were African Americans. Were so-called Negroes or people of Nigeria were the same people, and they founded Carthage. That's what early writers say. In Carthage, you see, it looks just like other the old cities. Is that the last one? Maybe it's the last one. Oh, I got through it. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to get through all this. That's why anyway, I just want some questions because I don't want people going from here thinking, is anything that was like exaggerated. Yeah.
The etymology or the origin of the word berry, Berber.
Well, as I was saying, it's probably related to that word Ubir or Ubir. Just because the Zagwe or Zagwe in Ethiopia were called Beri as well, or Eber. Yeah. So, and I got that from an associate, Bernard Lehman, who wrote the book Queen of Sheba. So it's very probable that the word is related to the word Hebrew. So, but you have to be a linguist to really figure that out. And he's a linguist, so. And all the same people, the Zagwe and the Zagawa and the Zagai and the Sugai. The word Songhai comes from that word, Zage or Sugai, or Suagai. So the Waga Castle, that's the Spanish translation, Azawaga of Zuwaga or Zagawa. And Songhai is a west, is a further southwest translation. Songhai was Sugai originally.
So Berber is not a Romanized form of barbarian.
No,
Be
the
clear.
word Berber has nothing to do with barbarian. There is a word barbarian, but that's a different word.
Okay.
They were written originally differently. And that's my associate, the Jewish guy I was talking about. He also writes about that they're the different words. He also, I don't know what this picture. No, but anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the author's name you were suggesting again? Barry or whatever?
Oh, Tariq Berry. Tariq Berry. The Unknown Arabs. And he has an
That's
interesting.
B-E-R-R-Y.
Yes.
Berry. And he writes about, the different tribes that were called black and stuff like that. And that's how I figured out which tribes were, that all of them were actually black. Because all those tribes, names were related to everybody else. So,
You remind me of Drusilla Houston Dungy. Have you read her book?
yeah. She was one of my inspirations.
Okay.
So her, J.A. Rogers, Diop, who else? J. Johnson was his last name? Origin of Man, God, and Civilization. Origin of African Civilization, something like that. Those were like the main ones.
Question.
So,
I'm trying to get some clarification. Now, the Berbers, are they the same people as the people who are called the Lost Tribes of Israel today?
yes.
And that's
The
us.
Berbers, or Berry, are the Hebrews. And that sounds strange, doesn't it? So, in a sense, these people in America saying that we are the Hebrews, we are the Jews, yes, to the extent that you're related to the Songhai, Mand people, Malinke, and all these people, which is a lot of West Africans, and Hausa, yes, you are descendants of those people, but not only that, the Canaanites, as well as the other tribes of Israel. So nobody else was mentioned in the Bible but those people.
Right.
So anybody want to come at me with anything, I'll show you that nobody else is mentioned in the Bible.
Wow.
It's just between
That is-
Russia and the Horn of Africa. And in the Horn of Africa, after they started colonizing, after there were Ethiopic wars, which Josephus talks about. Josephus was an ancient Roman who was Judaized and talks about, where the Hebrews came from. So after the Ethiopic wars, Lahumim, Latushim, and all these people, got spread abroad. The Canaanites got spread abroad. And, some of them went to Aegean. In fact, in the 6th century, you find texts written at that time saying that the coast of the Aegeans belonged to Ham.
Wow.
So apparently a lot of these places were still occupied by, dark-skinned black people. I know Jericho in Syria is, or Israel is. So they were actually called the Black Syrians, or Cappadocians, Black Syrians.
Wow.
So Berry was the name for the people of Niger, or Negroes. That's where that word comes from. So that is what we are. Berry, or Berbers. The people in the north of Africa are mixed with all kinds of different people. Not, Vandals, people from Genoa, the Andalusians, hundreds of thousands of Andalusians came into Morocco and Algeria, into the Rif area, exactly where the Masmudi used to be. And the Masmuda, Katama, and Sanhaja were called, those are the three major ethnic groups of the Berbers, were called black in the 10th or 11th century. So anyway, at the time that all these Moors or Berbers were conquering or invading Iberia and Italy and southern Europe in general, they were black. Yes.
Did your studies, did your studies cover people in the Morocco area? The name was the Haratines?
Haratin, yeah.
Haratines?
Well, the Haratines are the only people probably that are related to the ancient Egyptians today. There's also related to the Tata Karit or Karadan. But I don't think that they were very, I think they were but they're definitely were the indigenous of that area of Morocco.
Yes.
Yeah, but they probably encountered the Moors or the Beriberi. So there's Haritan, there's Gnawa or the Janawa, whose name comes from Jaina or Juhayna of the Kuta Himyarites.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, George G.M. James said that in Stolen Legacy that when they were fleeing Egypt, that they went down into Morocco. And so
another thing.
Custodians of the Egyptian mysteries.
Well, I just want to mention one thing about that because remember, you're talking about, I didn't mention this, but an early name for some of the people in this region was Mizraim. Southwest Arabia.
Yes.
Wow.
That's why the Tuareg still have a group named Imazurad. Imazura. Banu Mazura, they were called in. But anyway, so you have to know about the Tuareg, you have to know the Bible to really know what I'm talking about. The different tribes, Amalekites, Philistines, Umayma. All those were names of these group of tall people that were very just violent. And I mean, the Tuareg are very violent people. They became very monastic, strict under. But before that, they were Amalekites. They were Philistines. They were the people that destroyed everything. They were slave. They were the people. Everybody's afraid of them. In the Bible, it says the Israelites. It says Amalekites, first of all nations, and they were always, at war with the Israelites, who were, regular-sized people. So the Tuareg and the Philistines, they're the same people. The Amalekites and Philistines. The Amliku or Amalekites are also mentioned in Hadramaut in the colonial era. So they didn't die out either. They're usually called the extinct Arabs in the Middle Eastern text. There's a group called the extinct Arabs, but a lot of these people are still around. And the Dawasir and other very tall, big groups of Arabs and Africans are descendants of these people. So, I mean, they still have their names. I didn't go into that. On my blog slide, you could see the names of the Edomites, Canaanites, and Israelites still found among the Dawasir. Even the name Del El-Yashir, which is their name, that might even be the name of Israel, for all I know. I don't know. But I know it's either Ashir, Yashir is either the word for Assur, which was Medianite, or Israel. So it's one of those. I'm not sure. But the word Israel, actually, according to the ancients, is related to the name Saturn, and that was the name for these Assurim. That's where the word Assur comes from. Assur, Cronus is C-H-R-O-N.
Yes.
The Greek Cronus, it comes from that word, Saturn. And they were said to wear their hair in a, some of the Arabs wear their hair in a, I forget if it was this way or around, in imitation of Saturn, because that was like their ancient name. That was their ancient god, Saturn, and then Cronus Jupiter took over, or what they called
Zeus.
Zeus, yeah. Zeus took over. It was basically the same as Yahweh, but that's another story.
Wow.
I can't get it.
At what point, speaking of now more sort of like bringing it to modern time, at what point did the Arabs, were the Arabs not seen in the way in which you're saying, right? So like at the end of the 600s, when they started to move into Africa.
See, what happened was when the Arabs went to Syria, well, even before that, when Arabs went to Persia, which is the whole area of Afghanistan, Iran, northern parts of India, and into Turkmenistan, all these places, all those people, because they had some lineage from or great grandparent from an Arab, they started to call themselves Arabs. So that's why you see all these so-called hadiths coming from those areas, like Tabari from Tabaristan, Bukhari from Bukharistan. Those are all Persian places.
Wow. Right.
So they're not really
That's right.
Arabs, but those are the people that took over during the Abbasid period. So
That's right.
What time period?
that's after the 9th. Took over from the Umayyads.
Took over from the Umayyads.
Not Umayyads?
Yes.
Yeah, Umayyads. And I showed it on my Facebook what the Umayyads looked like. They were same as I showed you. what they portrayed, the Umayyads, did you see it?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I wish I had it here. Probably have it on my computer. But the Umayyads are portrayed a dark brown color. Dark brown, very dark brown color. By the Byzantines, who knew them.
So when people talk about Arabs and Africans in the very beginning of like when Prophet Muhammad, after Prophet Muhammad passed, a lot of times we hear, especially in the Afrocentric circle, well, Arabs, they came and they went into Africa and they messed up the Africans and et cetera, et cetera. How do you, what does the history say about that in reference to, are we talking about two different people? Are we talking about similar people?
Well, like I said, there are different ways of Arabians into Africa, and that was the last one. The Muslim wave was the last wave. There's the Halal tribes, they were the ones I just showed you, of the Hawati, who now belong to the Hawati, so they're very black, or black as lava then. Those are mixed people. Black as lava, and they came in North Africa. So, yeah, they did destroy certain things. Not the whole, like people try to say, the whole Sahara or something. But they were very, they took over a lot of places. You know, there were slave traders and all that. But most of the slaves originally were from the north, not from Africa. Originally, most of the slaves were from north. Most of the people that, the so-called Zanj slaves, most of that was not Africans, it was Arabs. Arabs that settled in Iraq, too. And most of the black people in Iraq, I'm sure people don't by now because they've put it all over the internet. According to the Arab news, what's it called? Arab Press Service.
Al Jazeera?
No, it's called the Arab Press Service, I think. This is before Al Jazeera. They put in the news that most of the blacks in Iraq today are Arab, not Africans. Most of them are from the Mutafiq, bin Uqayl bin Ka'b Arabs, who are mentioned as the rulers of that area up until the 1700s. So a lot of the Europeans, when they went in, they put people that look like them in power, both in North Africa and in the Middle East. So that became the
new norm.
Yeah. That's why you don't see some of these people, power. They're lower. They're looked down on. Even in North Central Arabia, the Qudar, who are apparently the original tribe of Kedar, are looked down on as people without a history.
Wow.
So I have that on my blog too. You should see it.
So if we were to,
No, I was just gonna say it's so fascinating how the history's been completely turned upside down, and I think that's why, like I've had the Oriental Institute of Beirut also contact me for papers, and which is a German center that was founded there, and then the National Strategic Institute of Odessa, Ukraine, and all kinds of people that I don't know. They're just, I guess they're fascinated as I am.
Yeah,
And most of I was telling people, a lot of my followers are from Russia for some reason.
Wow.
so as it relates to modern geography, what constituted the ancient land of Canaan? Where was Canaan?
So it's southwest, that area, like I said, south of Mecca, actually south of Asir too. It's called Wadi Kunana. And it was named after the Canaan people, sorry. Cain people. Now Canaan is also plural for Cain. But if you look at what it says about Canaan and where the name comes from in the ancient world, I think the 6th century writers in Syria were saying that they got the name from Cain. Canaan, the word Canaan came from Cain. And also Tubal Cain is related to that. Tubal Cain, the first smith. The word Cain means smith too. It's Cain actually.
Did you say Southwest Europe?
That's Arabia.
Oh, okay.
Can you expound a little more when you mentioned that Canaan, the people of Canaan, and the connection to the people of Africa? Our people from ancient Canaan and the connection to Africa. You mentioned something.
Well, actually, that's what I was just talking about. This whole thing was about that. But
No, what I mean is
No,
let me clarify. Okay. What I mean is that the migration, shall I say?
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say is that first of all, you keep in mind we're talking about Southwest Arabia, and there was something called Ethiopic Wars, which were the wars with all these people. I just talked about the Israelites, Canaanites, Midianites, Amalekites, Kenites, all these people in Southwest Arabia, and they spread northward, and they spread into Africa, and even spread into Central Asia. So that was like, but that was way back. That was like over, had to be over 1,300 years BC that they started coming. That's at least according to their tradition. Without Ifrikish when he was born and all that.
Now, the reason I asked that because we Lord's in here, and you're actually saying something that is in our Holy Quran.
Well,
you're saying exact, almost word for word, just in your way. It's detailed. Yeah, so that's why.
Well, I had learned that Canaan, that your prophet had said that Canaan was in Southwest Arabia, that's what I was fascinated with.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now I actually knew he was dead, but I didn't know that how he could know about that. But I just found out, I'm the only one that should know. But actually, so basically from looking at Kamal Salibi's book, because this was told to me, Kamal Salibi's book, The Bible Came from Arabia, he already showed that all those names of the tribes of Israel, Canaan, Edom, all those places definitely were in Southwest Arabia. And that just allowed me to put two and two together, why you found the same tribal names on both sides of the Red Sea and stuff. But he didn't know that, it's not just the villages, but it was the tribes. And I was told about this book when I worked for, I don't know if you know, Zahi Hawass. He was in charge of the Giza pyramids and the pyramids, antiquities of Egypt. He was like a kind of racist. So he's Egyptian, but racist. Egyptians, many of them are like racist against people of dark color, especially Africans of dark color. Especially Africans, not even people of dark color, but also Africans. And he, I worked with him, but there was another guy there from the tribe of Murad, the Himyarite tribe of Murad. And I had just happened to know that because I studied ancient South Arabian things. So anyway, he's telling me about Kamal Salibi, and at the time I thought it was crazy to say that all the tribes of the Bible come from, if Genesis came from Arabia, come on, I just let it go. It's only years later that some things started to click, and I looked at his book, and I'm like, oh wait, okay, now I know why the colonialists said that the river Farad meant the river in Yemen and not, way up there, because the four rivers of Eden are also South Arabia.
That's right.
The Jordan, all these other place names of the Bible are first in South Arabia.
It's true.
So, right across from Africa,
Indeed,
the Horn of Africa. And both these people are called the same by the Romans. The Sabians, East Africa, east of the Nile is called Arabia. Not even considered that, Africa was Tunisia. East Africa, east of the Nile.
Wow.
East of the Nile was called Arabia by Strabo and Diodorus.
Wow.
I can't help that.
Be watching this instead of putting it up, you know what I mean? Like,
Blogspot, Afroasiatics, actually, .blogspot.com. Yeah, I should have made it so long.
Slum Moors, let's please give our sister Dana Monisha a hand.
Spread the word. I don't need to.
And I think as she gave us more detail of what's recorded in our Holy Quran, it also warrants being mentioned that, especially what she mentioned with those European Persian as it relates to being the authors of many of the hadiths.
Right.
We see why Prophet Noble Drew Ali was not a hadithist.
Right.
He was a Quranist.
That's right.
And also, he didn't want to trade one slave master, the European, for an Arab slave master.
That's right.
And that's why he found it important to design for us our own system of Islam.
That's right.
The word Ahmar was used for Persians and Syrians, meaning slave. And that's how it came to mean the red man or the white man.
Yeah.
That word Ahmar is different from the Abiyad used for black. but Ahmar came to mean slave.